Hey guys, welcome back to my Seattle Mariners series here on Out of the Park Baseball. If you remember from the last episode, we had a very good season last year and made the playoffs. We finally have a little X for the first time since 2001 to signify that. And unfortunately, we lost a heartbreaking wildcard game to the Tampa Bay Rays 2-0 off of a lone home run. We sort of went over the stats in the last episode, but as you can see, Rafael Devers was definitely the standout on the team. Otherwise, AJ Pollock and Tony Kemp definitely had good years. Josh Naylor hit 35 home runs, but, was not really a superstar in my opinion. And then in terms of our pitching staff, Kershaw, Paxton, and Hernandez had good years, and the bullpen was sort of meh. I also picked up the team option for Cho Young-sung. As you can see, he's had 2 good seasons in a row, and that team option was for about $6 million. I'm not totally sure about this, but I believe our budget has shrunk a little bit, but there's certainly plenty of money to work with. We'll also have to get a new hitting coach because our hitting coach retired, and then also our scouting director was leaving. So I actually got a new scouting director, Mike DeJean. So our new scout definitely has some different ratings for some of our players. You can see Zunino is a lot lower, but given the fact that we don't really have any other catching options, I'm not really sure what to do. He's definitely had some average seasons in the past, so I'm not opposed to extending him. But as you can see, the arbitration amount is $10 million, which is quite a bit. So I'm definitely going to have to think about this a little bit. The other big name is AJ Pollock. You can see he had a very good season for us last year, and then also 2 years ago had an unbelievable season for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Unfortunately, though, when we take a look at his demands, they are insane. We are definitely not giving him that kind of money. So for now, we are just going to submit the qualifying offer and hopefully get a draft pick if anyone signs him. So this is a bit of a salary dump. I just don't really think that Mike Zunino is going to be worth $10 million next year. Maybe that's just me, but I think we kind of know who he is as a player, and he's a slightly above average catcher, but only that. And Christian Vasquez is certainly a worse option, but he's very good defensively. He's got, good work ethic. And if you see last year, he had a decent season. Sort of in the past, it's really been pretty mediocre, to be honest. But he's only going to make $1.5 million next year, and I just think that we can do other things with that $8 million of difference. I don't know. I mean, Zunino, he had 35 home runs, and that's great from a catcher. But, he's average offensively, according to OPS+. So, I just don't think he's worth $10 million. And I tried to, get some sort of prospect or something back. Can't really do that. So I think we're just going to complete this trade and see how that goes. Otherwise, we are going to be offering contracts to all our arbitration-eligible players. I also realized I forgot to go over what happened in the playoffs. So as we take a look at the playoff tree, the Houston Astros won the World Series. They beat the San Francisco Giants. The Tampa Bay Rays, who beat us, made it to the ALCS, but lost handily to the Astros, that's for sure. If we take a look at some of the awards, Corey Seager was named the most valuable player of the National League. And in the American League, it was Danny Salazar? Interesting. I never thought that he would amount to this much. 22 wins, 2.65 ERA, 8.6 WAR. Jeez. No surprise that Salazar was also the American League Cy Young Award winner, and Joe Ross apparently won in the National League. Jeez, he had a very good season. As usual, the only award we win is a Gold Glove, and Ben Gamel wins it for a second time. I also forgot to mention that Blake Snell finished second in the AL Cy Young voting, no surprise there. While our Clayton Kershaw finished third. I think he definitely could have won the Cy Young if he had had a good month of September, but he definitely had some pretty bad starts near the end of the year. So AJ Pollock did not accept our qualifying offer, so he is a compensation free agent. I think if you take a look at our roster, I think one of our biggest needs for free agency is a left-hander in the bullpen. Our bullpen is all right-handed pitchers, and we weren't even that great in the bullpen last year with all the righties that we had. I think offensively, we could definitely use a center fielder, second baseman, and catcher. I think we have money to spend. Yes, we definitely do. So we'll definitely be trying to get some upgrades there. First base, I'm definitely not worried about because Vlad Guerrero Jr. will be occupying that position most of the year. And in fact, now might be a good time to take a look at some of our prospects. So you can see Vlad Guerrero Jr., our new head scout, really, really likes him. So do the OSA ratings. So he is looking like he might really pan out. Just dominated AA last year. So he's going to start the year in AAA, probably just for about a month or so. And then we'll call him up just so we get that extra year of service time down the road. And then Eric Pardino, he looks to be developing, pretty good. He's definitely, going to be that 4-pitch pitcher, which is something we're looking for. Throws 100 miles an hour. Definitely the OSA and head scout both like him. I think the OSA a little bit more so. Struggled a little bit in A-ball last year, but he's only 18 years old, so we will definitely take it slow with him. Nick Allen, still 4.5-star potential. I think offensively he's falling just a little bit, but, certainly okay for a shortstop. Defensively is where he is most valuable, and he's certainly very quick too. Marcelo Guerrero looks like he could be okay out of the bullpen, and then I think another big name here is Calvin Mitchell. Definitely these ratings are falling a little bit. He looks like he could be a productive right fielder, but I think that's all you could really call him at this point, although the OSA definitely thinks more highly of him than our head scout does. Another thing to note is Miguel Geraldo. I think definitely his ratings are falling a little bit. I don't really know that he's a shortstop. I think we're going to have to sit down and try to figure out where we want to play him, but that might be a conversation for down the road considering he's only 19 years old. Alfredo Duton, he looks to be developing kind of normally. Again, these OSA ratings are different, but still look okay to me. We'll just have to see, how he progresses as he goes along. The other big disappointment is Miguel Amaya. You can kind of see, at least according to our head scout, he's not a big fan of him. I look at these ratings, though. They're not too bad. I do think, though, that we're going to have to figure out, something to do at catcher because right now we really only have Christian Vasquez, and, we're definitely going to have to upgrade there. So with that in mind, as we take a look at the free agents, especially out of the bullpen, I think the big name is Zach Britton. He's always pretty darn dominant. If you look at this year with Baltimore, a 0.28 ERA. That is absurd. I'm not really sure that we're going to want to sign him. Maybe that demand will go down a little bit. We definitely have the money potentially to give him that contract, but, in general, I'm just not a huge fan of giving relief pitchers these, massive contracts. $15 million, that's like a premier player, and I just don't think that they're worth it. But, we definitely need a left-hander out of the pen, and that seems to be by far the best option. And even this Brad Hand wants $8.5 million, which seems absurd. I also forgot to take a look at the international free agents. So as we take a look here, nothing really so far, although that left fielder looks pretty darn good. Sieng Ryung Jukebox Pak. Interesting. So he could definitely be a left fielder. If you take a look at his power, that is pretty impressive. He's 33 years old. How long of a contract is he looking for? Yeah, I don't know about that. We definitely have some money, but 33 years old. I think we're going to wait a little bit and just see what his demand comes out to in the end. So Zach Britton wants almost $18 million now, so that is where we are absolutely going to draw the line. But that means we're going to have to figure out something in our bullpen. Maybe that means a trade for a left-handed reliever. Because if you take a look at what the options are, I see this Jake Diekman. Maybe I just get him. So this Jukebox Pak is now only looking for a 2-year contract. If we're not going to sign Britton, it's just like, what else am I going to do with the money? I could move Kemp, right? I could move him where? I just feel like we could use a bat. We could use that just massive power that he has. He's maybe he could play second base, actually. Maybe that could be our option. Yes, he doesn't have great range, but I don't know. I feel like anyone can play second base. I think we are going to put in an offer for this Jukebox Pak. If for nothing else than the ridiculous name. Obviously, he's 33 years old, so, the contract could backfire. But I just look at that power, and I just think, wow, we could really use that in our order. He's also got great contact and avoid K ratings, so I think that he could be pretty successful. So I think this is a trade that we're going to do. We would get Brian McCann, who would be sort of a good platoon role with Christian Vasquez. You can see he only is under contract for one more year for $2 million. So I think that's fine. He's obviously 35 years old, so I think he'd only have about one more year of value anyway. And then we'd also get this Tyler J. Obviously, I don't really like his personality here, but he's got pretty good ratings. He had, good numbers last year, and most importantly, he's a good left-hander out in the bullpen. So it sort of solves that need without having to give $18 million to Zach Britton. In terms of who we're giving up, the big name, I guess, is Coda Glover. He had a pretty good year with us last year, but you can see in the past hasn't really been that great in the majors. 2 stars, that's okay, but, it's not necessarily great. And then we'd also be giving up Shane Green. I do like the looks of his ratings. He's obviously a 2.5-star starter, but I think Jose De Leon is going to have that 5th spot anyway. And he's always just sort of been there as like a decent but not great option in the starting rotation. So we are going to complete this trade. Our assistant GM likes it. We're also offering a cheap contract, 1 year, $4 million to this Jake Diekman. Not a lot of major league experience, but he's got decent ratings and he is also left-handed. So with that said, I think the other guy that we'll be keeping a close eye on is AJ Pollock, but for right now, he still has outlandish demands. So it is also time for the Rule 5 draft. We have the 25th pick. I'm just going to make sure that none of our guys are here. And in fact, I did see a Nick Wells. I believe he is on our team, and he is. So I will add him to the 40-man roster. So we have a lot of space on our 40-man roster. So I think we're going to take some gambles here. And one of those is going to be this Zach Brown. Our head scout really, really likes him. And OSA even thinks he's not too bad. Obviously, he's 25 years old. So I kind of think he's probably a bust. So taking a look at these other guys, this Firestein, he doesn't look terrible, but I just don't think we have enough room in our bullpen for him. And then there's also this closer, Jordan Marcelo Guerrero, and in fact, he's our guy. So I should add him to the 40-man roster. So I think with that in mind, that's actually going to do it. So we're just going to complete this draft. All right, so I have simmed ahead to opening day. There is a little bit to talk about. We did sign Sung Ryung Pak. He looks pretty good, declining slightly. We had to pay him, unfortunately, about $24 million for these 2 seasons. So hopefully he does pan out. I just think we could really use a power bat sort of in the middle of our order. So I think that is going to be a good move. In terms of taking a look at some different people's ratings, I think what makes the most sense is to put Tony Kemp at second, Josh Naylor at DH, and Pak at first base. I don't really have any say in it. It's the manager who's deciding it. But I personally do think that actually makes the most sense. But then once Guerrero is called up, as you can see, I think that he's just clearly better at first base than Pak is. And Pak can play a decent left field. So I think there will be that swap of Pak moving over to left. We did re-sign AJ Pollock. He will be paid $8 million for 1 season. I think that's definitely worth it considering what our alternatives are. And it also seems like Vasquez is going to be doing the everyday duties at catcher, with maybe McCann filling in sometimes when there is a right-hander on the mound. So offensively, pretty similar to last year. Obviously, just the addition of Pak, I think, is the main difference, and then Guerrero will be coming in soon. But for the rotation, unfortunately, the very sad news is that Yu Darvish has seriously regressed. I think that must have something to do with the shoulder injuries that he had suffered before, but he is just not the same pitcher. He's a 1-star starting pitcher and a 2-star reliever. So I'm actually going to request a scouting report here just to verify all this. But what it seems like is that he might get released, unfortunately. He's due $23 million both this year and next year. And, it's kind of one of those things that we took a risk. And, that's the reason I only made the contract 2 years, is so we won't get totally burned, but we are going to have to eat that money, unfortunately. As for how our rotation looks, Kershaw will be our number 1 pitcher. Fernandez, his ratings have still held up, so he will be number 2. Paxton will be our number 3 guy. De Leon will be our number 4 guy, and currently Banuelos is unfortunately our number 5 guy. Obviously, I was not okay with Banuelos being number 5. Unfortunately thought Darvish was going to be our number 2 guy, but with that in mind, I have offered Drew Pomeranz a contract. He is a 3-star pitcher, if you take a look at last year for the Angels, he did not do too badly. Previously, he did quite a bit worse. So we'll have to see which Drew Pomeranz we get, but hopefully it's the good one. Otherwise, obviously Pedrino is sort of the starter of the future. I don't really know what we're going to do after this year because Paxton is going to be a free agent. Hernandez, you don't know what he's going to be like. De Leon, you're kind of going season to season. Hopefully he gains some traction, but he's 27. He hasn't really put together a dominant year, so there's no guarantees for him, which means we have a lot of question marks in our rotation, especially with Pedrino probably being 3 or 4 years away. So I don't really know how we're going to solve that, but we're going to have to try and finagle a rotation in the years to come. But that's going to do it for this episode. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you guys again on Friday.